everything goes extinct. It's estimated that more than 99.9% of all species that have ever lived on the planet Earth are now extinct. The dodo bird was hunted to extinction by the late 1600s, and its death, as an entirety, is directly attributed to human actions. Similarly, the moa, known in folklore as the giant bird, the rock, ceased to exist during recorded human history. The Tasmanian tiger was last seen during the 20th century, yet reports persist to this day, from the least inhabited stretches of the Australian outback, that it survives in the night. None of which can be proved, or, more importantly, disproved. We have witnessed mass death, in the skies and the valleys, in the mountains and the islands, in the echoing fields that stretch all the way to the horizon, and in the darkest forests that we have ever known. But there is another world, right here on Earth, which happens to be, paradoxically, more common than, but less familiar to, us. The ocean. In the depths of the ocean, the same rules of extinction, natural selection, and survival of the fittest all still apply. There have been stories of creatures, unexplainable creatures, rising out of the ocean to strike fear into the hearts of humans for as long as we've been venturing out onto the seas. Most are easily dismissed due to the inevitable ignorance of our ancestors, and their lack of understanding of the world. It is laughable today to think that manatees could be misconstrued as mermaids, or humpback whales were called as ghastly sea serpents. But it was once common knowledge that there were great and terrible monsters in the ocean. These legends slowly made their way from the precautions of the known world to the faded, aged pages of stories of tall tales and myths. As science, through technology, shed so much light through so much darkness, the belief in the monsters of the deep slowly, but not without a fight, died. As previously predicated, one way or another, everything goes extinct. But the oceans of the Earth remain a very mysterious place. Take, for example, the coelacanth. The coelacanth was thought to be extinct since the end of the Cretaceous period, until December 23, 1938, when a living specimen was dragged onto a fishing boat. Millions and millions of years of certainty in the fossil records shattered in a moment as brief as it was frightening. This creature's existence, at least its living existence, could lead one to postulate that equally such impossible beasts could somehow survive the test of time, millions and millions of years of time. This leads us to the story of July 14th, 1896. On this day, it is said that a creature of bizarre and frightening proportions came to the place known as Brent Rock in Marshfield, Massachusetts. The creature was first spotted by two local children named Patrick Kelly and Sean Flanagan. Mr. Kelly, being of only 9 years old at the time, described the creature as if it drudged itself out of the sea, lurching in slow, wavering increments as if moved more by the tide than by its own volition. He claimed that it resembled a sort of crab or lobster, approximately 4 to 6 feet wide and about 20 feet long. Its numerous appendages had a sluggishness that he likened to the way that some insects live too far into the winter, and are incapable of doing anything more than simply dying. He said that it had 2 distinct pincers or claws in its front, and that it had a great many eyeballs. Mr. Kelly and Mr. Flanagan claimed that they were so enthralled by this creature that they dared to walk up to the shore and see what they could of it, as it appeared to be, like a beached whale, simply going through the motions of life in its death thralls. The two boys were within a few feet of the creature when young Mr. Flanagan put his hand upon the cold, hard shell of what could best be described as the creature's head. Mr. Patrick Kelly stated that young Flanagan looked back at him and made a comment as to how thick and wretched was the stench of the beast. Just as the creature's eyes widened into frenzy and grabbed the boy, piercing his ribcage and taking a bite out of the back of his skull in a loud wet smack that Mr. Kelly claimed, more than 80 years later, still resonated in his mind as vividly on his deathbed as it did at that very moment. Mr. Kelly ran as fast as his legs could take him back to the town tavern, looking back only once for a lapse of time briefer than the tiniest fraction of a second. By the time the boy had made it possibly 1,000 feet, his skin burning and sweating and shaking all at the same time, none of which he would feel until days later, his heart sank as he saw that the creature was gone. Nowhere in sight. But there were tracks. Deep, strange tracks that ran too close together for the legs of a natural beast. Tracks that trailed more like those of a train. The biggest problem with these tracks, these meticulous tracings in the sand, was that they trailed far past the sand, into the pine trees, and therefore meant that they had been made, impossibly made, by that sluggish, murderous beast far too quick for his eyes to have seen. The boy ran as quickly as his shambled legs could carry him to the Brent Rock pub, and he told the men of what best he could describe of what he had seen of his fallen friend before he collapsed in exhaustion. The men grabbed their guns and followed the tracks, the sun setting and their path lit by their oil lamps and crude torches. There are few accounts or testimonies of the men of this caravan mob, but it is distinctly noted in the newspaper of the time that 2 men did not return that night. It is known, to the best of records, that the creature was found at Perry Swamp, shot repeatedly, and eventually retreated into a subterranean cavern. The creature was described as being lobster or insect, centipede-like, making haunting wailing noises and moving at a rapid pace. It was articulated by more than one member of the killing party before the time of its death that the creature moved quicker than the human eye could see, in stark contrast to the initial portion of the testimony of Mr. Patrick Kelly. The creature was shot many times by more than 30 well-armed men. The creature was eventually wounded and butchered by the men to the point where it was incapable of defending itself. By this time, the creature was beneath the surface of the earth, in a cave, well known and equally well feared by the people of Brant Rock as being a place of dark and supernatural activity. The cave at Perry Swamp was a wet, murky, and ultimately appropriate place for such a creature to die. When the creature's hide had been thoroughly pierced, men went to work at its shell with axes and ice picks. After hours of laborious hacking, the creature's gizzards were finally spilled, releasing both a great deal of stench and intense air pressure. The pressure propelling the stench and the stench causing unprecedented reactions of sickness and disgust in the slayers of the beast. The entrance of the Perry Cave Swamp is, to this day, bricked up. The slaying of the beast brought no comfort to the community mourning its losses, and its death cast a nauseating, thick cloud over Brent Rock. The smell lasted for weeks, permeating longer than natural, a stench against the wind, which otherwise brought the smells of the swamp away from the town. The pressure, the unnatural, almost palpable pressure, persisted for years, literally years after the slaying of the creature. Initially, the people began to complain of terrible migraines and great difficulty sleeping, many suffering from nightmares of strange, bizarre creatures they had never imagined before. Several people were regularly sick and suffered from intense vomiting and chronic earaches. Many families left the place, never to return. Years later, in 1906, one of the first radio towers was set up at Brent Rock, and, after its construction, the bizarre pressure, the painful, nauseating pressure that could not be seen or smelled or felt, was gone. Or at least it was subdued enough for life to go on. The structure of the tower was unusual from radio towers of the early 20th century, and this tower was bizarre even from its contemporaries, as it contained unusual signs and symbols etched into the framework of its spires. Over the years, this tower fell into disrepair. Brent Rock became a vibrant community, and the story of July 14th, 1896 became nothing more than a myth. Today, there is a bizarre tower with unorthodox architectural traits that stands at Brent Rock. It has been abandoned for years, the people of Brent Rock suspecting problems with the structure such as a corrosive foundation, asbestos, and faulty plumbing. But no one dares to tear the structure down. It simply stands there, looming over the sea, as if watching, waiting for something equally as bizarre to show up. No one has ever seen a creature matching the depictions of the creature of 1896, at least not in size and physical characteristics. The creature's remains have never been exhumed from the cave at Perry Swamp, and nothing in the family of arthropods comes anything close to the eyewitness accounts of the creature, at least nothing known for many, many millions of years in the fossil records. Some creatures match several characteristics of the beast described, but all of them have been extinct for many millions of years. But what are the odds of anything surviving that long? After all, everybody knows that, one way or another, everything goes extinct. Don't they?